This video will look at adding an additional visualization to the ServiceNow Service Operations Workspace homepage or landing page. So we're logged into an out-of-the-box, freshly upgraded to Tokyo instance, dev PDI. And we see here, this is the overview page. This is what you get out of the box. Incidents assigned to me, incident SLAs, unassigned incidents. And if you go over here, yeah, there's catalog tasks as well. So this is what we get out of the box. And if we click on any of these things in the visualization, we get a list down here, or actually this is like a grid view, which shows cards with the incidents that are filtered. So on hold incidents or in progress incidents. And we can also switch over to the list view and we get a list. So we're trying to achieve something similar, but with an additional visualization on another table. So I have a working example here with all active changes. So I'm in changes. This is what we're trying to achieve. All active changes, and when I click on this is by type, so normal change, we get this changes to normal changes, and then we get a list of all those normal changes, emergency changes, standard changes, and then we can also switch to the grid view and we get these not so nice looking cards because I didn't really put any effort into that. So this is what we're aiming for. This is what we're going to do in this video, is create this. I do have an article. This video is just sort of a video format of, on my blog. I put an article adding a visualization to the overview section, blah, 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 very long title, with screenshots and step-by-step instructions. So this video is just kind of going to take us through that article and look at the things live and in person. I will note that this is not completely finished because, for example, you can't click on any of the visualization actions are not working right now. And not the visualization, the card actions are not working. So that's on the to-do list, and there are a couple other things. As we get to them, we'll see. Well, you can see that the formatting is not really correct on here. These things are boxed, and this one isn't. So there's still some things that are not quite up to snuff, but it'll at least give you an idea of how this thing works and how you can add an additional page, a visualization. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is go to UI Builder and take a look at this existing page. So we can go configure workspace. Okay, so here it takes us right to the home page or the landing page, and this landing page has a single variant. So let's just go take a look at this. So this is an overview, and we go edit content. This is actually a viewport, and we go edit content. This brings us to a subpage. And this subpage, like the parent page, is read-only because it's an SNC page. But we can get an idea of how this thing works. So if we click on any of these visualizations, we can see a couple of interesting things. First of all, we see that at least for this one, and three out of four, they get their data source. Actually, it didn't seem to fill in there, but normally they get their data source. Yeah, here we go. You can see it here. From a client state parameter, the inc SLA donut data source. Same for the group by and the metric too, but for some reason the metric didn't show up on this one. So they're getting this from the, yeah, this one, only the group by shows up. They're getting it dynamically. So we'll take a look at that later on. Most of the parameters for this page are stored in a either a client script include or an actual script include, and then they're dynamically sent to here, with the exception of the unassigned incidents, which actually is sort of hard-coded, if you will, with the incident table, and the metric is hard-coded to count. So that's the first thing we'll notice, and when we actually duplicate this and create the visualization, you'll see that I will go ahead and I will manually define it, or not manually because that's another thing, but I will sort of hard code the table in here and the metric because I didn't want to mess around in those script includes and client script includes and all that. So that's one thing. But the more important point here is if we go to events, we can see how this thing is talking to the list down here. It's wired up with this execute client script. Visualization clicked. We execute this client script, update EVAM card state variables. And that is the case for all 4 of these visualizations. They all have that same event. So make a mental note of that. Now we're going to go ahead and go back up to the parent. And we're going to make a copy of this. So we'll duplicate it. And the duplication takes quite a bit of time. One thing that I didn't try that could possibly work is instead of making a duplication of the home page of the parent page, you could just go into the sub page and duplicate the variant in there and then bump that variant up. That might be a better way to do it. Okay, so now we have our copy. What we're going to want to do is, first thing I'd like to do, let's change the condition here. So this takes the same order as the other one, which is 100, so we can put that at 0 so that this becomes the default page, or the default variant, I should say. Then I also like to just go in here and change something so that we can make sure we're looking at the right page. So we can do this and put a little underscore there. Save that. Okay, now we'll go back to our workspace. Okay, so we can see in the workspace that now we're looking at the new variant, which because it has the underscore there. So we go back to UI Builder, and now let's take a look at, if we go to one of those visualizations, and now we go to events, we notice that there is not an event handler there anymore. That event mapping is gone, and that is the case for all 4 of them. So I think this is a defect because I've had this problem, or not exactly this problem, but a similar problem with events disappearing when we duplicate the page in other occurrences, and I reported that into high, and the support rep kind of indicated to me that this is a problem that should be fixed later on. So remember, we took that mental note of the event, and now it's gone. So we're going to have to rewire this thing. Now, interestingly, it still works. If you go into here, we're still getting this thing. So it is still triggering a event somehow. And I think that has something to do with duplicating because this is a sub page, maybe it still takes the old page. I'm not quite sure exactly why. But also, if you go into the client scripts, you'll notice, and let's see if I'm lying. No, see, update donuts config, it's twice. So it looks like it's retained the page scripts from the original sub page and then added another copy of them. So something going on there, not quite sure what that is, and just something to kind of be aware of. Okay, so now what we want to do, so we have our duplicate page, and now let's go ahead and add another visualization. So we will go over to here, and here's another Kind of annoying thing about UI Builder is that you can't expand this to make it wider. And we'll add a component before. We'll do a container. Okay, and I actually wanted this up here. There we go. Okay, and add a component here in the default slot, which will be a visualization. And then we'll add another one, which will be a bear button, I think it's called, or is it button bear? Yeah, button bear. Okay, so we have those two. Label on this one is going to be view all. And over here, go back to our visualization, this is going to be a donut. Okay, and we'll call this, title, we'll call this active changes. We'll add a data source. Change request. They already have, I think .open actually is active as true, but okay, add that source. Great, and we'll do a metric in here. It's still catching up. Group by type. It's good. Put the count in for us. And okay. Whoops. Yeah, sometimes this gets a little wonky. All right, we'll come back to that. The other thing we want to do is just copy the other configs. So we don't want the legend, and we don't want to show a border. And let's go grab the, oh, and we do want to show the number in the middle. I think it's the, put our styles in. That, do value, and fine, truncate at the end. Okay. Good, so this is all set up. And now we want to name this thing, so we can call it active changes, and we can call this, you know, I called it something in the other one. Let's see what I call it in the article. So we want to just keep the thing the same because the script's, yeah, change type all. Because the scripts address it by the component ID, so it's important to have that. It doesn't have to be change underscore type underscore all, but it has to be the same as it is in the script that we're about to create. Okay, so we have our active changes visualization in there. We'll save this thing, and let's go back to the workspace. Refresh. Okay, we're having a problem. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, because it's super wide. So the other thing to be done is grab the styling from the container. Let's take another container, and we have this. Okay, save that. back here. Okay, so that's a good start. We have it. Actually, we don't have the number in the middle, which I was hoping for, but I'll have to go find that. Right, so it's showing now, but if we click it, nothing's happening, right? Which is expected because we don't have any event wired up to this thing. So now let's go and do the next step, which is creating a client script to so that this can talk to this. Okay, so I'm back in UI Builder, and what I was looking for before is in additional settings, show total value. So I turned that on so we get the number in the middle. So now we're going to want to go ahead and create a client script so that we can get this visualization talking to the list or grid below it. So we go client scripts and we do a new one. And I'm going to grab the code from the article. I already did that and paste it in from the blog post. And we can just go through this quickly. So we're setting up some variables. Actually, you know what? Even before we look at this, let's go look at the client state parameter that is controlling the list where all this thing comes from. So it's this current viz selection, right? Current viz selection. So let's go, whoops, get that open. Okay, we'll go here to client state parameters and current viz selection. Take a look at this. Let's stick it in JSON view like that. Okay, a little bit easier to see. So we have a few elements. We have the table, we have the element, the title, the query, the EVAM ID, and then query for all record count and table for view all record count. So this is what is taken as inputs to the list below, right? So the table is, hey, what table do I get this from? Element is part of those script includes and that I was talking about earlier. That stuff is, all the parameters are in there. So I don't actually use that here. I just leave it as is. We'll see that. The title is what should be displayed here. And the query is what the filter should be for the list. Whenever we click on like on hold, it's only going to give us incidents that are on hold. And the EVAM ID, that is for the card view. So instead of viewing it in a list, if you're doing it in a card view, it needs to know where is the EVAM in order to be able to put the fields in the right area on the card. We'll look at that later on. And then the query for view all record count and the table for view all record count. So that is this gray box here. It does another data lookup to get this number. And so it needs to know what table to go to and what query to use. Okay, so that is this current viz selection, which is an object, client state parameter, and that's what's doing the sort of communicating between the changes between the visualization and the list. So if we go back to our script, which is currently named new client script 1, and we can name this thing like, in the article, I'm going to name it the same, even though I don't like the name, is really not, it's not the best name. Yeah, this update current viz selection new _ new, because there is already a update current viz selection script. That's a really terrible name. It's very, if I ever saw that in production instance, I'd be kind of miffed. But for this purpose, it's okay. Okay, so that is there. Okay, so now we're going to just go through this. So here I'm just setting up the variables. Now I'm saying, hey, if this event came in from the change view all, which is what we named our visualization, then set the table to change request, the title to all changes. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's not what we named it. We named this. Oh, and I did I need to go back and change this. So this is should be for the view all button is change underscore view underscore all, and then the other element is the change underscore type underscore donut, which is should be this guy here. And when we get that, then I want to know, we get the table from the payload, the title from the payload, and the query from the payload. It gives us all of that in the event, and then I hard code the EVAM ID in there. Then down here, I just go ahead and create a JSON object out of it with all the necessary elements. And then I do a set state here. So we set the current viz selection to what we created up here. And then I set another client state parameter to list refresh requested. And then it goes and grabs just a JavaScript timestamp. And then there's a data, I think it's a transform script that will go and put it into the right format. So that is for this piece right here, which is where it updates that. Okay, so before I forget, let's make sure I have my names correct. Changes type donut should be this. Active changes, I'm in there. Yeah, see, I have this incorrectly ID'd. That's changes type donut. And then the other one is changes type all. Oops, that is going to be in our bear button, which we haven't changed the label of, or the ID. Okay, good. So that's our changes all. Okay, so now let's wire these things up to the script that we just created. So let's grab this name and we go into events here. Here, close this. And there we go. So when this thing is clicked, we're going to add. And so we execute the client script when the bear button is clicked. Update current viz selection underscore new. Then if we have up to our visualization, go into events, just do the same thing. Wire that into there. Okay, and we'll click save. Now, in theory, we should be able to go back to our page. Just make sure that finished saving and refresh it. And we should see some action on our list. Okay, so if I click here, so now we are seeing some action. It's changing to normal changes, right? The title changes, emergency changes, that's great. But we're not seeing anything here. So the problem here is that this is the cards view, and we haven't set up our EVAM yet. So it's expected that we won't see anything there. On the other hand, if we go to our list, now we're seeing stuff. So standard changes is 4, right? And we're seeing 4 in the list. And what is this? Normal changes, and we see 80 of those, right, for a total of 80. If I go to view all, I'm getting all changes, and I get 89 records. So that's pretty good. Just with that simple script and an event, and wired it up to the event, now these two components are talking to the list. So now the next step will be to get our, actually, you know what, even before I go to the next step, let's just look at a quick troubleshooting thing. So say you get this far and this is not appearing and this is not changing. So a couple of useful troubleshooting or debugging techniques here is console.log is really my best friend in UI Builder. So if we're in this client script, we can console.log. Are we in the right one? No, we're not in the right one. Let's go to this one. And if we're in here, we can go do a console.log, you know, hello, my script is running. Another cool thing I like to do here is, not cool thing, but useful thing is output the, I think if you just do it like this. So we have, you know, API, event, helpers. So if we output the event, we can see what's in there. Because you can see that down here, I use the payload from the event to fill in the table and the elements in the query. So, you know, how I figured out that this stuff is in the event is by just console.logging the event, and you can see it. So if we save that, and then we go back here. Okay, then we're going to fire up the console. And so now if we click here, here it is. Hello, my script is running. Right, and here is the event. So we can see the element ID comes in there. That is what we're using, right? So element ID here is change type donut because I clicked up here. If I click down here, it's going to be change underscore view underscore all. So that's how, when we're in this client script, we can we know what the person clicked or what the user clicked because of what's in the element ID. Okay, let's take another look then at what's here. Let's go back up to this one because it's more interesting. You get the actual event name, and then a payload and a context. So payload has a lot of good information. Context, not so much so. Payload has, we have the title. I think this is the title of the chart. And then is it in params? Yeah, params, we get the query, super useful. The table that it came from, the list title, which I think is just a replication of this. And then we get in the data elements normal. So that's normal changes. If I clicked on emergency, it would give you emergency. So that's, I'm grabbing this here, data.elements, plural, to get my title going correctly here. If we go back and look at that, right, see if I go event.payload.data.elements and take the first element of those elements, and then a space changes. So that lets me do, you know, standard changes or normal changes. So really powerful stuff there. So console.log is really your best friend in UI Builder. Another sort of, so if I did that and I wasn't seeing hello, my script is running in the console, then I know that there's a problem with the event. That this wiring is not correct. Something's going on with that. So you could try, you know, another thing you could try is giving it, a lot of these pages will have a modal. And I think this one does. We could see if this is going to work. I'm not sure. And this might not work, but just to see if it pops something up. You know, so open assignment modal. Let's see. I'm not sure this is going to work, but this is another thing you can do is assign it some other event that's obvious, or even just create another client script, or you know, or comment everything out in your client script except the console.log, and see if it's popping that up. So let's just see real quick. Yeah, say it's popping up a modal. I mean, it's not useful at all, but it just, okay, so the event is working. That's the point of that. And then the last thing you can do that is useful for, oh gosh, can I just, yeah, right here. The last thing you can do is output a rich text. Put a rich text on the screen somewhere, on the page somewhere. So I don't know. Say we put it in the default slot. Yeah, say we put it after here, and it's going to be rich text. And so now I want to. Whoops, I'm not going to do it in here. I'm going to go use script for this, and I want to return JSON stringify API dot, and here's where you can get all kinds of good stuff here. So we can do API state, and this should output the entire client state. Right, so you can see that right here. It's already doing that. And if we save and go back over here, and we should see our HTML. Here it is. Yep. And this is the entire client state. So, you might not want the entire client state, but maybe you'd want something like current viz selected or something like that, just to see, hey, what's going on in there as we go. So those are some useful troubleshooting or debugging techniques. Okay, so now that we have this thing working, now let's go on to the EVAM portion and get these cards working. Okay, so now we're going to look at creating the EVAM definition. So we go up to all, we go into EVAM and EVAM definitions. And then we can just grab one that's existing already, like service desk incident. Okay, and actually, I just realized I have not been in the right scope all this time. I'm wondering, oh yeah, this was created in the global scope. That might pose a problem later on. I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So let's go into the incident management. Oops, this is the update set. Incident management, service operations workspace. Okay. And so we're going to just insert and stay this. And then we're going to create a data source. So create and link. Whoops. Oh yeah. I'm in the right one. I have to rename it though. Save it. No. Okay, so we do change. This is right. Just going to be change, and the table is going to be change request. Still loading here. Okay, change request. Okay, and active is true, and we will submit this. Okay, now we're going to change this to service desk change. And config bundle M to M. So now we need a config bundle. Create and link. Okay, so this is really just the config bundle is just a shell. We do that, we save. And then I think we have to create an EVAM view, or a view config rather. Come on, new. Okay, there we go. We'll call this change request. And most important part of this is just specifying number, short description, specifying the fields. Type, do state, and we'll do priority. Now, to be honest with you, I have not really messed around with the EVAM too much. So the cards that we output are really not that good. There's definitely a lot of room for improvement here on my to-do list to improve this EVAM a bit. Okay, so we have our view config. Now, I think I did not... Right, I left the view template blank. So now we have to go ahead and create a view template. Okay, and we'll do new. And we'll call this change. So they give you an example down here. And see, this is basically just talking about where you want to map fields. You know, what goes into the title, subtitle, detail 1, detail 2. All that stuff is what is down here in the card. So each of these areas has a definition of, you know, where it is, title and subtitle, etc. And so you're just mapping fields from the change table into the card. Okay, so I have in the article a template, a very poor one. It's this one. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, the actions don't even work. So it's, again, a lot of room for improvement there. Okay, boom, that's done. Good, we have our definition. So now let's just go back to our view config, was it? Yeah, this one, and let's give it the template we just created. Change. Update. Okay, so now the last thing we need to do is to go back to our EVAM definition, service desk change, and let's grab the sysid from here. Now we go back to UI Builder, and we go back to our client script. Not that one, this one. And we stick our EVAM ID into the EVAM ID. Okay, we save that. So I thought, oh gosh, now it's going to start working. But that is not the case. There's still a few more things that need to be done. So let's take a look at those. So we have our EVAM ID set up now, and the EVAM definition is all good, but the cards are still not working. So let's go down to, I'm back in the UI Builder in the subpage, and I'm going to go down to the bottom and where the cards are, to that component, which it's a widget data grid. And actually, even before we go there, let's go down to the widget below it, or the component below it rather, which is a widget data list. And you can see, you could see, but this thing, oh gosh. There, I think if we refresh, it's a little temperamental. So we go down to the widget data list, And we hope that it displays this time. Here it is. So the widget data list is just grabbing the table and the filter from the client state parameter. So that works fine, right? Because we've been updating the client state parameter current viz selection table and query all along. We did that with the script, and so that's no problem. On the other hand, the widget data grid, we have to go crawling through a bowl of spaghetti to arrive at this. So it's getting its data from service desk manipulate, EVAM data, data underscore one output. So this is from a data resource. So let's hop over to the data resources. And you notice we have quite a few here. And we're looking for data service desk manipulate EVAM. So that's this one here, service desk manipulate EVAM data. Okay, great. So it's pumping out this thing. But this is a transform script. So it gets data from here, EVAM data, and then has a couple of other parameters, report ranges and element ID. This is that element ID that we looked at earlier that we're not actually using. So we can go to this script and take a look at what this does. We will, because this is one of the scripts that needs to be updated. So this is getting its EVAM data from bind data to component prop1.output. So it's getting it from here. And this one is getting the input parameter is data.fetch EVAM data1, which is up here. So you can see what I'm talking about with the bowl of spaghetti here. And now this one is getting EVAM metadata from data.serviceDesk manipulate EVAM metadata. That's the main one. So that's this one. And now this one, as you can imagine, it goes and gets its data from EVAM metadata, fetch EVAM metadata 1, which is this guy here. And here is where we arrive finally at our client state parameter at state current viz selection EVAM ID. So that's the EVAM that definition that we created and that we update in this current viz selection. So basically, when that I think this is how it works, and I'm not 100% sure though. When that client state parameter changes, it triggers this guy, which then cascades all the way down through the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 that we looked at to eventually spitting something out. This one, service desk manipulate EVAM data, right? And that ends up spilling out into the right here, service desk manipulate EVAM data. Right. So I spent some time because I was trying to figure out, like I said before, I put the EVAM ID and I thought, here we go, this is going to be it. And it wasn't. So I had to go through each of these scripts to figure out what the heck is going on and where is the problem. So there are 2 things that need to be updated well, one of them is in one of these scripts and the other one is in a regular script include. So let's go looking at this service desk manipulate EVAM data because this is the last stop in that chain, and that's actually what needs to be updated. So they got a very handy little breakout thing here. You can do that, and that brings us right to the record in ServiceNow. So this is the sysux data broker transform table, and this is our script. And this is in the incident management scope. So I did off camera. I did try out the page even though it's in the global scope and not in the incident management scope, it works. So happy about that. So you can go ahead and create your UI builder page. It looks like in global scope anyway, it works. When I originally did this, I did everything in the incident management service operations workspace scope, which is probably a better thing to do. It's probably better to keep everything in this scope. But I didn't do that for this demo, and it turns out it won't bite us. Okay, so going through this, right, so here are the properties, here is the definitions for what the inputs are here, right? EVAM data, report ranges, and element ID. So that's just some of the definitions for the input parameters. And then we start rolling along here. So I'm trying to get to where we can see. So we're seeing tables defined explicitly here. So if table equals incident, so it's not going to be good with this. Okay, yeah. So this first section looks at if the table is incident or if it's SC task or anything else. It does have an anything else, which is gives it priority. Fine. So what are we doing in this script? I guess first of all we should ask that question. And there is a description. It will update the EVAM data to include the last updated comment as subtitle in EVAM cards. So it's just adding something to the object, I think, to have that thing in this. So I basically threw this out and I said I don't care about that. I just want to output the input. So it just kind of passed through. So it does have this if statement here. If your input length is 0, then just output the input. However, when you run this, actually we could do that right now. Right, I'm going to start clicking around here, and then I'm going to go to my log. And hopefully I'm not lying here. Yeah, actually, it's not even getting down that far. Cannot read priority from undefined. Okay, I think, let's go back here. Where is it choking? Input element ID. Okay, well, let's go and update the script. I had this thing working before. Hopefully, we're not. So yeah. I think that's. I'm just trying to remember. Right. So because we have two problems in this script actually. So the first problem is okay. So it's going and finding this, and then it's saying, okay, well, I'll give it the field equals priority. Fine. Then it goes to this SOW incident landing page utility, which is a script include, and it goes and grabs this report color map. Right. So let's go follow the spaghetti over there to that script include. Let's see, I have a window laying around here we can use. Yeah, here was a cache.do, and I'll come back to this, the importance of cache.do when wrestling with UI Builder. So let's go to script includes. And whoops. Okay, we'll go here, we'll search that. Okay, so here again we have this pattern where you have the SNC and you have the sort of customer configurable one. So SNC is read-only, and this one extends SNC. Right, so this one extends SNC. So let's go check out that. Okay, I gotta find my proper window here. So it is report ranges colors. So that looks like it's a constant, and I say that because I know that it's a constant. And here it is, report, oh no, chart colors. Well, what's going on here? I thought it was chart colors. Report ranges colors. Okay, so maybe that actually wasn't the, maybe it's further down. I think it's down here actually. Okay, so it's getting report ranges colors, so fine, let's look at that. Got too many windows open. Okay, so that's this. That looks fine. We go further down the line here. So actually, the way I figured this out, and I won't put you through the pain and suffering of watching this again, but I just did a bunch of GS infos for each one of, like at each step, and say, okay, are we getting a field? Are we getting report range color map? Are we getting a sysid list at each step to kind of figure out where it was failing. Um, so eventually we made it way down to here, and you see we do this again. We're going back to that landing page utility. We do chart colors and table and field. So our table here is going to be the actual table, right? Change underscore request. So if we go to this guy here and we go chart colors, we can see incident is defined, SE task is defined, but no change request. So this thing pops out an empty or something undefined, and that causes the rest of the script to crap out. So what we have to do is first is define something for the change request table. So in the article, I have that here. So I go and just update the whole darn chart colors constant. Probably don't have to do that. You could probably just do this dot chart colors dot change request equals this stuff. That would probably work fine, but I just did the whole thing. So we're back here, and no, we're not back here. We are back here, and we actually want to get out of the SNC and go to the customer configurable one. We will, oops, I gotta be in the right scope. All right, we'll blow that whole thing away and put that in there and save. Okay, now let's go back to our log, and yeah, service line 53. Oh yeah, see, so it was telling me, yeah, it tells you exactly where it's crapping out here. So the GS info thing I did, I think, for something else, but yeah, it tells you right in the log here where the problem is. Okay, so now that we resolve that problem, let's do a little more clicking around. Okay, so we resolved that problem, we're clicking around, and we're still not seeing anything. We could do a refresh, although everything we changed on the server side, so that shouldn't really matter. Okay, and yeah, nothing. So now let's pop back over to the log. Okay, and this is from 1314, so that was like 6 minutes ago. So that was not what we were doing just now. So now we have no errors. Now we have no errors. So now what I did to figure this out is this is where I used the technique that I looked at earlier, which is popping open a HTML rich text. So we can do this and do a rich text. And then I want to see, well, tell me about what is the output of this thing, service desk manipulate EVAM data. Right? I just want to see the raw output. Whoops. So we'll go here and we'll do API dot and put the rest of our thing here. Sorry, this is going to give us the raw output. And actually, we have to do a JSON.stringify. Okay, well, boom. So that's given us for the incident. And then for this, we will have to refresh because this is on the client side. But sometimes you have to refresh twice because it still hangs on to what it had before. Let's see, in this case, no, it took it. Okay, so this is giving us the output for the incident, right? When I click on here, I'm getting a whole bunch of stuff. When I click on here, empty. I get nothing. Right? So no error, nothing. Okay, so then what I did was, well, okay, well, let's go back to the script here, and let's keep going. Right? Let's keep looking at what it's doing. So it's populating this sysids list array. Now we start with the table business again. So if your table is task SLA, do a bunch of this stuff, and then return an EVAM data. Right? So I think it's adding to this object and then returning it. Right. Oh, this was line 53, right? That we had the problem before. Now it's saying, hey, if this is an incident, then go do a bunch of stuff. I think this is where it goes and grabs the last comment and then return your EVAM data. Again, if you're a SC task, go do some stuff, return EVAM data. And then that's it. And now we get into functions. Right? So that's the problem, is that we have nothing for table equals SC equals change request. So what we can do is add a couple lines in here. Just if my table is change request, then just return the input. This is the disease of having too many tabs open. Okay, so we do that. And, you could really give it an else, return the thing, which is, this way, if you add more tables, you don't have to go messing around with this. But I'm going to just leave it like that for now. And then also, if you wanted to add your journal entry, work notes or something to the card, you could do that here, although you'd also have to do it in the EVAM definition. Okay, so we did that, and we will save that. Okay, and now we can go back here, and that is server side. So in theory, whoop, look at this. Now we got a whole bunch of stuff there, and here we are. Now we're getting our 80 incidents, it looks like. All right, bunch of different changes. If I go to standard changes, oops, what happened there? I was getting excited for a minute. Okay, so normal changes are working. The other two are not. Let's start by just doing a refresh. There we go. Yeah, so the refresh fixed that. And then emergency changes. And we have 5 of those, so there we go. So now it's working as intended. And like I said in the beginning, the actions are not working. Those need to be fixed. That should be easy enough to do. And you could clean up these cards, make them a little bit nicer. The next step, if it's still not working, so what I found is that cache.do along with console.log is a great debugging tool. Cache.do is a very useful tool when you have weird problems that don't make sense. Just do a cache.do and see if your problem goes away. Because earlier I was wrestling with something with this, that everything looked fine, the configuration, but it wasn't working. And cache.do did the trick. The last thing I wanted to mention was this My Work menu. So this solution does not take the My Work, My Team's work into account. What this, I keep wanting to call it a toggle, but it's actually some sort of menu. What this dropdown does is it updates a client state parameter called group mode, I think. yeah, group mode, which is set to false by default. It sets it to true when you set it to my team's work. It will then go and get the data for the incidents in most of the incident visualizations, or 2 out of 3 anyway, for your groups or any of the groups that you're in, and not just your own. So in order to get that working, well, first of all, let me just mention that if you go into your duplicate variant, right, your copy, and you go into my work, and then you go and you see, well, okay, well, how is this thing working? You go over to events, and darn it, there's no events there. And if you're like me, you will scratch your head and wonder for a while, and then realize, oh yeah, I'm in the duplicate, so the events didn't copy over. So if you want to see what's going on, you always have to go back to your original page. Here, I have it up on another instance here. And you can see it's doing update donuts config client script and update current viz selection client script. So you can take a look at that. So if you wanted to get this thing working with my work and my group's work, it's honestly it's not really it's a little involved, because you have to get the data sources for this dynamically and not statically like we're doing. So the other one I showed you, I think it's here, that no, it's over here, this one, unassigned incidents. So this one is created manually, or statically, I should say, the data source, because it doesn't matter if they're unassigned, so they're never going to be mine. So they always show up the same, right? Doesn't matter what you have selected up here. Whereas the other ones, like incidents, can either be, right, incidents assigned to me. When I go to my team's work, we get incidents assigned to my team. So these are 2 different data sources. So that's why they are in here. That's why they get these, and the darn thing disappears all the time. But they're getting it from a client state parameter. So you'd have to come up with some, well, you could either use the script includes and all the stuff that they have to try and jam in the new thing, or you could do like what I did here, which is just kind of create a new structure for that, where you would, in parallel to doing the events, in parallel to these events, you'd also execute another client script, which would be your own client script, which would update some parameters, which would then go and update your visualization. So you'd have to change your visualizations to, instead of getting it statically, you would use a dynamic thing in here, getting it from the client state parameter. So actually, it wouldn't be that complex to do it. If you did it on your own. If you tried to integrate with the existing, what they have, the script includes and that kind of stuff, I think it would get a little hairy. But doing it on your own probably wouldn't be that bad. Maybe I'll do it in another video if I get a chance. So that's it. That's the basic solution to how this darn page works, and how you can add additional visualizations to this service operations workspace landing home page.